Today I am going to be making some abstract paintings, and I'll be using light magenta, turquoise phthalo, azo gold, and Mars black with titanium white. I always lay out my colors on my palette paper, and then I like to mix a bunch together before I get started so I don't have to think about it. So I have all the colors laid out, and then I mixed a few together. I added some golden medium called GAC, and I am starting to paint. I wanted these paintings to have this gorgeous dark turquoise background. So I mixed turquoise and the Mars black together to kind of create this deep forest color green. Now that I have my backgrounds done, I like to come in and do a little bit of mark making. I'm using an oil pastel right now with these, and I pick out my colors before I begin. So I have a couple oil pastels. I like to keep everything really simple and within the same color palette. So I picked out a few oil pastels to work with, and then I'll bring those back in later. I like to just add a little bit of mark making for fun, really. And then I kind of start to paint around the marks that I've made. I'm not really thinking about anything in particular. I'm just grabbing some paint and putting it on there, to layering it up. All these different layers will create mystery and depth. Kind of like when you're walking in the forest and I've been looking down a lot when I walk in the woods because I'm searching. I'm looking for little treasures. And a painting is similar to that, where, you look down and you see the sticks and the leaves and the grass and the moss and the mud. It's all these different beautiful layers of things underneath your feet. And that's kind of what I'm trying to do here, is create different layers of mystery and joy through paints and oil pastels and later on Posca pens. And currently all I'm doing is responding, putting something dark down, putting something light down, so I'm responding with the colors that I'm using. And then I love to, excavate. So I put some wet paint down. I went in with a pencil and made some marks to show the paint color underneath. If you're going to do that, you got to make sure you do it when the paint's wet. You don't want to let the paint dry. Sometimes I know some of my students, they get going and they forget they want to excavate and see, have some color show through from what's underneath, but they forget to do it and the paint dries and then it just doesn't work. Here I'm coming in with a little bit of medium just to loosen that paint up and have it be a little more transparent. And the medium that I'm using is golden GAC 100. And when I say GAC, it's GAC, and that is a medium that helps to keep things wet longer and a little more fluid. I tend to move all around these papers. So I'm going to say I have these 4 small paintings that I'm working on together. 2 are smaller than the others, but you'll see I kind of bop around a bit. I'm painting each one separately, but I'm working in this series together. Sometimes I put something down, I'm not crazy about it, but I could do something different on another painting that's right next to it and then say, ooh, I like that better. Let me try that. I love to work like this because my brain likes to play this way. What if I did this? What if I did that? Oh, wait, I don't like that. I let stuff dry. So I move away from one of the paintings that I'm working on. I go to another painting, start doing something different, and then that other painting's drying. So it's hard. I tend not to overwork things when I work this way, because I have 4 options that I can kind of play with instead of just one. And for me, I have found that this really works because I do enjoy painting rather quickly, and the ideas, they tend to come pretty quick when I'm working. And working in a series like this just really helps me to not overcrowd my paintings. And even now, I'm still not thinking of the composition. I'm just having fun, and I'm thinking of really call and response. And what does this look like? What happens if I do this to that or this to that? So I'm just really playing right now. I will think more about composition at some point, but right now I just want to play. For me, making art is meditative. It's a little soul searching. It's joyful. And I love it so much. And I feel really bad for some of my students. Like, what I try to teach is to let go of that perfection and just really try to just be a kid again and to have fun and to let it go. Right now I grabbed a different paintbrush, so I have a smaller brush. When making abstract paintings, it's good to use different tools because you get different strokes and different lines and different shapes by switching up your brushes or your whatever tools you might be using, a palette knife, a scraper. But I do really try to encourage my students to just let go and enjoy the process of making. If I paint something and I don't like it, I can cover it up. It's not that big of a deal. I don't do this to be aggravated and upset with myself because things didn't come out perfect. It's all those little things that happen, all those little surprises that could bring you to your next great painting, and you wouldn't have even known if you were trying to control everything. We can't control everything. And sometimes that can feel really good when you're making something that has no expectation. I guess my goal would be here is to make something that reminds me of the forest. I chose these colors because they remind me of the colors in the forest and the leaves and the sky and the ground. So I'm really just trying to create a feeling of being in the woods. And if at the end I get one of these that has a really beautiful composition and it works, I'm psyched. I'm going to say about 5 years ago, I changed the way that I speak to myself. And it really has changed my life. I recognized the way that I spoke to my children and my husband, and how loving and supportive I was to them. And I thought, what if I spoke to myself like that? What if I was as big of a supporter to me as I am, like, to my family. I'm a champion for my family. And what if I did that for myself? And I did. I changed the way I spoke to myself, and it has made all the difference in the world of how I approach my art, how I approach my life, actually. But in my art, I am able to give myself grace and not perfection. I don't have to be perfect or even want to or try to be. I want to be creative and curious and explore. There are many, many other things I strive to be and give myself grace while doing it. Now I busted out, so I let this dry. I want to be very clear. There are lots of times that I'm blow drying these paintings to add more layers, not just keep layering wet on wet on wet. I take time, I blow dry it, and then I come back on. These paintings are all dry, and I got out my acrylic Posca pens. So these are markers that are filled with acrylic paint, and they are lovely. I love them. I have them in many colors, and I like to use them for lines and dots. And now I have a oil pastel by Sennelier, which is white and feels like butter. And I think it's tending to pop a little bit more on this surface than the Posca pen did. So the surface is like a shiny, flat surface, and the oil pastels just really love it. They love being on that surface, and it just has a beautiful contrast and a beautiful feel. This is another Sennelier oil pastel in like a goldy ochre color, which I've been seeing all over the woods, everywhere. So I can come back in, I can put this oil pastel on top of these paints, and it'll dry eventually, but it does stay wet for a while. So I have to be mindful of that it's going to have to sit for a little bit, unlike the acrylic paint and the acrylic markers. The oil pastels stay wet longer. I had leftover paint and leftover paper. I decided to do it the opposite with a lighter background and then put the dark on. I'm so sorry. I messed up recording and I couldn't put it on YouTube. Live and learn. I guess I'll give myself some grace. Here I'm cutting the paintings out with the MDF board that it's going to go on, and it'll fit perfect on there. Thanks for watching.